Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the AFI project. This was supposed to be Friday's video, but real life got in the way, so I couldn't get the video out in time. So you're getting a special Sunday video, and today I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, movie musical ever made. It was released in 1961, and it was called West Side Story. This was directed by Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise, and it starred Natalie Wood, Richard Beymer, Russ Tamblyn, and Rita Moreno. And this is an adaptation of the insanely successful Broadway play of the same name, which is a modern retelling of the classic play Romeo and Juliet, written by William Shakespeare. And basically, if you've seen Romeo and Juliet, then you have more than likely seen West Side Story. However, I'll try and explain the plot of this movie in the style of the man who inspired this movie to begin with. Two street gangs, both alike in dignity, in fair New York City where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Or, well, in the case of this, at least one of them does. Or one of them is murdered. But anyway, moving on. Whose misadventured, piteous overthrows do with their death bury their rivals' strife. This movie was based on the Broadway play of the same name, which was insanely successful. So a movie was just the natural thing to do. So Robbins was penned to direct the movie adaptation. However, he had no real experience directing Hollywood movies, so Robert Wise was brought in to help him out. Wise, up to that point, had directed The Body Snatcher, starring Boris Karloff, the original The Day the Earth Stood Still, the best version, and after this movie would go on to direct movies like The Sound of Music, which he would win the Oscar for, as well as for West Side Story, and Star Trek the Motion Picture. So he had a long career. And in a bit of a reoccurring thing on this AFI project, of course the directors had creative differences with the studio, or well, more specifically, Jerome Robbins. He had a lot of creative differences with the studio, and because of this, the movie did go over budget and over schedule. To the point where Jerome Robbins was fired off of the movie, and Robert Wise was made solo director. But to Wise's credit, he still worked with Robbins in secret, and even lobbied for Jerome Robbins to get a co-director's credit, so good on Wise for doing that. And to say this movie was a success, well, is a bit of an understatement. It was the highest grossing movie of 1961, it won 10 Oscars, and is widely recognized as one of the greatest movie musicals of all time. And coming up on its 50-year anniversary, I mean, this movie has just aged like a fine wine, because this movie is just, it's a masterpiece. This being a musical, the first question is, well, how good is the music? Well, quite simply, the music is stellar. The music was created by Leonard Bernstein, and to say that he is influential edit that out. The music was created by Leonard Bernstein, and yeah, to go into detail as to how influential he was would take me way too long. So let's just say he was an incredible composer. At a certain point, the music just blends, and you forget that it's just, oh, it's moving pictures with sound underneath. No, the music takes on a life of its own and breathes that life into this movie. I think the best example of just how amazing this music was in the prologue. The prologue starts off with a beautiful opening montage, which was created by Saul Bass, who created a lot of amazing title sequences for a great deal of Alfred Hitchcock movies and James Bond movies. And then at the end of all that, we cut to a playground, and then we see our first street gang, the Jets, and they start snapping. And then the music comes in like doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. And then it starts off really unassuming, and then as the Jets start to dance, everything gets more involved. And And then it gets more and more loud and bombastic, and then as soon as the sharks show up, the music completely changes by going dun 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 dun. I could go on, but there is a lot of rises and falls in the tone of this music, and it all works splendidly. This entire opening dance number is just a work of art. The entire story of the relationship between the Jets and Sharks and how they absolutely despise each other is told with almost little to no dialogue. Really, all that's said in like the first 10 minutes of the movie is random stuff like Jets and beat it, and the occasional, come on. And do I really need to say how good the dancing in this movie is? Because, wow, the dancing in this movie is incredible. I was actually rewatching the opening scene to do research for this review, and I was looking at the comments section on YouTube, and I saw comments like, nothing says gangs like aggressive ballet dancing. I had to laugh, but, I mean, that's kind of what this dancing is. That doesn't mean it's not awesome, because it absolutely is, but just the knowledge of these street gangs doing pirouettes just makes me smile. Outside of the prologue, though, the rest of the movie is stellar, so let's get on to that. The main characters of the movie are Tony and Maria. Tony is played by Richard Bamer, who I learned from my podcasting friend Rachel over at Rachel's Reviews that he actually didn't like this movie. Which is weird, because considering the fact that he was the main star in one of the greatest movie musicals of all time, I would just be all over that. I'd own that, but whatever floats his boat, I guess. He is really good in the movie, though. He's I don't want to say he's neutral, but he's friends with a lot of the Jets. He has this secret pact with Riff, the leader of the Jets, when he goes womb to tomb, and they just go sperm to worm. And they're friends, but the movie does a good job of showing that he used to be a Jet, but now is kind of trying to figure out his own path. He's not necessarily out of the Jets, but he's like a satellite member. And his better half would be Maria, played by Natalie Wood. And, of course, she's really good in this as well. Maria's role in all of this is that she is the sister of Bernardo, who is the leader of the Sharks. She has nothing to do with any of this gang stuff, she's just living her life. But as soon as Tony and Maria meet for the first time, it's like all of time stands still, and it's like that moment where it's like everything that these two people have done in their lives has led up to this exact moment. And again, with almost no dialogue, this scene is done masterfully well, with the excellent music of doom doom dun 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 do 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 do, and they just have this synchronized dance of, well, not necessarily a dance, but they're just like in tune with each other. I can't do it justice. The scene is excellent. And then Tony has a song about when he learns that her name is Maria, and that song is great. This romance between Tony and Maria could have easily been just cheesy, but honestly, they do a great job, and they have a lot of fantastic moments together. And it was in this rewatch that I discovered a bit of a new appreciation for the rivalry between the Jets and the Sharks. I've watched this a lot of times, and every time I'm just sitting there like, guys, can't we just get along? Like, seriously, what's with the fighting? What am I missing here? But in little to no dialogue, and mostly through visual storytelling, we learn that the Jets and the Sharks are fighting each other because all they really have is each other. Let's unpack that. The story does a great job of showing that most of these, I don't want to say kids to sound condescending, most of these boys come from broken homes, and it's especially hard for the Sharks because they're Puerto Rican immigrants, and this movie takes place in the early 1960s, and I can't imagine it was a great time for their people. Just saying. And it's just a situation between the Jets and the Sharks where they just have a mutual agreement of, this town ain't big enough for the one of us. One of us has to budge. And for the first 2/3 of the movie, it's all building up towards this rumble, where it was initially pitched as like they're gonna have these weapons, and it's just gonna be this big nasty brawl, like a lights out match in AEW. But then Tony, who is there at the meeting for the planning of the rumble, just says, "You know what? You guys are so high and mighty. Why don't you just have a fair fight? You know, fists and nothing else." And they're just like, "Okay, that sounds like a plan." Well, as plans might be, plans may go awry. Once they get to the Rumble, well, it doesn't go well. And literally, as soon as they get there, Riff and Bernardo both bring knives, and that whole gentleman's agreement of a fair fight goes out the window in about 10 seconds. And to make a long story short, Riff dies, and then out of a fit of passion, Tony kills Bernardo. And all hell breaks loose after that. And then there's Anita, who is the conscience of the movie. And she's played by Rita Moreno, who won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for this movie. And yeah, that's very well deserved as well. It was in this rewatch that I found that Anita was more of the conscience of the movie. She's always keeping Bernardo in check. And when she learns that Tony killed Bernardo, she kind of gives lip service to Maria about her being in love with him. And that she has a whole song about it. This could have so easily been a caricature, but Rita Moreno absolutely made it work. And then, well, let's talk about the ending, because wow, this ending still gets me every time. After a long time apart, Tony has been laying low by this point, and Maria's been looking for him. They finally see each other, and they run into each other's arms, only for Chino, who was supposed to be Maria's boyfriend in all of this, but it turns out that's not the case. Chino shoots Tony in the back, and he dies. And Maria is absolutely heartbroken, and she has this very painful monologue about how idiotic this whole feud has been. I can count the number of scenes where I've cried on like one hand, and this is one of them. I could go on and on and on and on about how awesome this movie is, but honestly, the best that I could do is just to say, go watch it. I mean, we all talk about movies like Citizen Kane and Godfather and Gone with the Wind in terms of the greatest movies of all time. Well, I think West Side Story needs to be in that conversation. Certainly the best movie musical of all time. But that is just my opinion. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below. But that is all for me, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time on the AFI Project, I'm going to be taking a look at 3 movies from the 1970s, spaced out throughout the week, of course. The first in this unofficial 1970s trilogy is from 1978, and it is a movie that basically launched Martin Scorsese's career. It's called Taxi Driver. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.